Commander Jack Miller stood at attention as Admiral Ford handed him the tablet with his new orders. His face remained neutral, but inside, disappointment churned like a storm. After 15 years of loyal service and multiple commendations, this was his reward. "The U.S. resilient, sir?" Miller asked, scrolling through the assignment details. Admiral Ford nodded. "I know it's not what you expected, Miller, but it's what Earth needs right now." What Earth needed, apparently, was to send one of its oldest warships on a glorified parade route through Galactic Council space. The Resilient was a relic from before the Void War, a conflict that had nearly wiped out humanity before the Council races arrived to help. Now Earth was the newest, weakest member of their Grand Alliance, and Miller was being sent to show off an antique. "When do I leave?" Miller asked, tucking the tablet under his arm. "Tomorrow. Your crew has already been selected." The Admiral looked out the window at Earth's orbiting shipyards, where sleek alien vessels dwarfed human designs. "Remember, this mission is about building goodwill. The Council saved us. Now we need to show we're worth saving." Miller nodded stiffly. What the Admiral didn't say, what nobody said aloud, was that Earth was still proving its usefulness to its new alien friends. The Resilient looked exactly like what it was, a 20-year-old warship that had barely survived the Void War. Its hull was patched in places, its once sharp angles softened by repairs. In the shadow of the modern ships surrounding it in the docking bay, it looked like a child's toy. Miller walked up the boarding ramp, where a small welcoming party awaited. His new second-in-command, Lieutenant Tom Reed, stood at the front. "Welcome aboard, Commander," Reed said, saluting sharply. He was young, too young, Miller thought, with bright eyes that hadn't seen enough battle. "We're honored to serve under you." "Save the honor for when we've done something worth it," Miller replied, returning the salute. "Show me my ship." The tour revealed exactly what Miller had feared. The Resilient was functional but outdated. Its weapons systems were generations behind current standards. Its engines were reliable but slow compared to the Council ships that could cross galaxies in weeks instead of years. It had been retrofitted with basic Council translation technology and communication systems, but everything else was purely human and purely obsolete. "And this is your engineering chief, Sam Wilson," Reed said as they entered the engine room. Wilson was elbow-deep in an open panel, tools scattered around. Unlike Reed, Wilson looked older than her years, with calloused hands and eyes that had seen one too many emergency repairs. "Chief," Miller nodded. "How's she running?" Wilson wiped her hands on a rag. "She's running, sir. That's about the best I can say. They pulled her out of the mothball fleet 6 months ago. I've been trying to get her battle-ready ever since." "We're not headed for battle," Miller reminded her. "Just a friendship tour." Wilson's expression said what Miller was thinking. In space, everything could become a battle in seconds. The last crew member he met was the most unusual. Officer Gray was an alien liaison assigned by the Council, tall, with pale blue skin and 4 arms. Gray's species, the Archon, had been among the first to welcome humans into the galactic community. "Commander Miller," Gray said, its voice translated through the small device at its throat. "I look forward to helping you navigate Council customs and protocol." Miller nodded politely. "And I look forward to your insights, Officer Gray." In his quarters that night, Miller reviewed the mission details again. 6 stops at different Council worlds, showing the flag, attending diplomatic functions, letting Council scientists and military experts study human ship design. It was a zoo exhibition, not a mission. Their first stop was Taylor Prime, home of the bird-like Tellarans who specialized in advanced weapons technology. The Resilient dropped out of FTL on schedule, its engines groaning with the effort. Communications from the Tellaran High Command. "Sir," Reed reported from his station. "They're sending an escort." 3 sleek Tellaran vessels approached, each half the size of the Resilient. But Miller knew, carrying twice the firepower. "They're hailing us, sir." On screen, Miller ordered, straightening his uniform. The screen filled with the image of a Tellarran commander, its feathered crest rising above yellow eyes that studied Miller with unconcealed curiosity. "Commander Miller of Earth," the Tellarran said, "welcome to Tellar Prime. We have prepared a berth for your historic vessel." The slight pause wasn't lost on Miller. "Thank you, Commander. The U.S. Resilient is honored to visit your world." The welcoming ceremony was worse than Miller had imagined. A crowd of Tellarran officials and scientists circled the Resilient as it docked, pointing and chattering. Miller led his senior staff down the ramp, where they were met by Tellarran Diplomatic Minister Krek. "Welcome, humans," Krek said, spreading his wing-like arms. "We are most interested in examining your warship. It's so primitive." Miller forced a smile. "The Resilient may be one of our older designs, Minister, but she's served Earth well." Krek made a sound that the translator rendered as laughter. "Yes, I'm sure. Before you met the Council, this must have seemed quite impressive." The tour of the ship was humiliating. Tellarran engineers openly scoffed at the Resilient's propulsion systems. Weapons experts chuckled at the railguns and missile tubes. One scientist actually patted the hull condescendingly. "It's remarkable you managed to survive the Void War with such technology," the scientist said. "Truly, humans are resourceful." Through it all, Miller maintained his composure, though he noticed Reed's jaw tightening and Wilson looking increasingly irritated. Only Gray seemed untroubled, explaining human design philosophy to the Tellarans with endless patience. That evening, at the formal reception, Miller stood with a glass of something like wine, watching Tellarran officials mingle with his crew. "They don't understand," a voice said beside him. Miller turned to find Wilson, looking uncomfortable in her dress uniform. "Understand what, Chief?" Wilson nodded toward a group of Tellarran engineers who were laughing. "What it took to build ships like the Resilient. We didn't have their resources or their technology. We built her with what we had, and she fought. She saved lives." Miller studied his ship through the massive windows overlooking the docking bay. Under the bright lights of the Tellarran station, the Resilient looked small and worn. "5 more stops after this," he said quietly. "5 more worlds where we'll be the primitive curiosity. Unless—" Wilson hesitated. "Unless what, Chief?" Wilson glanced around, then lowered her voice. "There's something you should see, sir. Something about the Resilient that isn't in the official specs." Before she could continue, Minister Krek approached, flanked by several military officials. "Commander Miller, we were just discussing your ship's amusing defense systems. Tell me, do you really still use physical projectiles in space combat?" As the Tellarans laughed, Miller smiled politely, but his mind was on Wilson's words. There was more to the Resilient than met the eye, and for the first time since taking command, he felt a spark of curiosity about this ancient warship. The reception on Tellar Prime dragged on for hours. Every time Commander Miller tried to slip away, another Tellarran official cornered him with questions that felt more like mockery than genuine interest. Finally, as the gathering began to thin, he caught Wilson's eye across the room and gave a slight nod. 20 minutes later, they met in a quiet corridor of the Resilient. Reed joined them, looking over his shoulder. "This had better be important, Chief," Miller said. "I've had enough Tellarran condescension for one day." Wilson's eyes gleamed with excitement. "It is, sir. Follow me." She led them to a maintenance shaft near the engine room that Miller hadn't noticed during his initial tour. The entry panel looked ordinary, but Wilson pressed her palm against it in a specific pattern. The panel slid open, revealing the narrow passage. "What is this?" Miller asked, peering into the darkness. "Something not in the official blueprints," Wilson answered, activating a small light. "I found it by accident while doing repairs last month." The passage led to a small room filled with unfamiliar equipment. Unlike the rest of the ship, this space looked untouched by time. Clean, modern, and distinctly not standard issue. "What am I looking at, Chief?" Miller asked, running his hand over a smooth console. "I'm not entirely sure," Wilson admitted. "But I found 6 rooms like this hidden throughout the ship. They're connected by passages that don't show up on any schematic." Reed examined a panel of dark screens. "These systems aren't drawing power. They're completely dormant." "That's the thing," Wilson said. "They're isolated from the main power grid. They have their own source." She pointed to a cylindrical object in the corner. "That's not any power cell I've ever seen. It's not even using technology I recognize." Miller studied the room, his mind racing. Why would a 20-year-old Earth ship have secret compartments with advanced technology? "I have a theory," Wilson said. "Before the Void War, the Resilient was listed as a tested vessel. I thought that meant routine systems testing. But what if they were testing something else? Something classified?" Reed looked skeptical. "If the Resilient had advanced technology, why didn't we use it during the war? We were losing badly until the Council intervened." "Maybe they didn't finish testing it," Wilson suggested. "Or maybe they couldn't control it. All I know is this equipment is far beyond our current capabilities, and definitely beyond what the Tellarans think we have." Miller made a decision. "We keep this quiet. No reports back to command yet, and definitely nothing to Officer Gray or our Tellaran hosts. Chief, I want you to figure out what these systems do without activating them. Reed, run background checks on the original design team of the Resilient. See if there's any mention of experimental technology." Both officers nodded, and Miller felt something he hadn't felt since receiving this assignment: purpose. While Wilson explored the hidden compartments, Miller maintained the diplomatic facade. The Resilient left Tellar Prime 3 days later, heading toward their next destination, a gas giant called Vorko, where the crystalline Vor species maintained massive floating cities. On the 4th day of their journey, Reed requested a private meeting. Miller found him in his quarters, surrounded by data tablets. "I found something, sir," Reed said, his voice low despite their privacy. "Project Phantom. It was a black-budget research initiative from about 25 years ago, right when the Resilient was being designed." Miller scanned the heavily redacted documents. "What was Phantom?" "Most of it's classified beyond my clearance, but from what I can piece together, it involved studying recovered technology." Reed hesitated. "Void technology." Miller's head snapped up. "We had void tech before the war." Reed nodded. "Apparently, we had encountered void scouts decades before the main invasion. A small ship crashed in the Pacific Ocean. The crew died, but the ship was mostly intact. And they built that technology into the Resilient." "Not exactly. They studied it, tried to understand it. The Resilient was designed with compartments for experimental systems based on the void tech. But according to these records, the project was shut down before completion. Too dangerous, too unpredictable." Miller thought about the dormant systems Wilson had found. So the ship was launched with experimental compartments, but without the actual technology installed. "That's what the official record says," Reed answered. "But what if they installed some of it anyway? What if someone continued the project off the books?" Before Miller could respond, his comm beeped. Wilson's voice came through, tense with excitement. "Commander, I need you in hidden compartment 3. Now." The compartment was larger than the first one Miller had seen. Wilson stood before a holographic display, her face bathed in blue light. "I found a way to give these systems minimal power," she explained. "Just enough to access their memory banks without bringing them fully online." The hologram showed a 3-dimensional schematic of the Resilient, but not as Miller knew it. This version had additional structures, systems that wrapped through the ship like a second skeleton. "That's not all," Wilson said, swiping to a new display. "I found logs, text and video from the original project team." A man's face appeared in the hologram, his expression grave. "Project Phantom, Log 47. We've successfully integrated the phase shift technology into the secondary hull structure. Preliminary tests show 60% effectiveness in deflecting energy weapons. If we can reach 80%, this could change everything about space combat." Wilson tapped another control, and the face changed to a woman with tired eyes. Project Phantom, Log 112. The neural interface is proving problematic. The system wants to connect more deeply than our safety protocols allow. Martin thinks the Void designed their ships to form symbiotic relationships with their pilots. The implications are unsettling. More logs followed, reports of breakthroughs and setbacks, discussions of technology decades ahead of current Earth capabilities. The last entry is from 2 days before the Resilience official launch, Wilson said, pulling up a final recording. A different man appeared, his uniform indicating high rank. Executive Order 7734 has shut down Project Phantom. All materials are to be removed from the test vessel. However, I will not, destroy what we've built. The Void is coming. We know this now. They're not sending scouts anymore. They're sending an armada. The Council races won't help us. They don't even know we exist yet. We'll hide the technology within the Resilient. We'll disguise it as a conventional warship. When the time comes, if the time comes, someone will find what we've left behind. The recording ended, leaving the 3 officers in silence. That was Admiral Jensen, Reed finally said. He disappeared during the first year of the Void War. His ship was destroyed in the Battle of Europa. Miller looked at the dormant systems with new eyes. He knew, somehow, he knew the Void was coming. And he tried to prepare. Sir, Wilson said, I think I can activate these systems. Not all at once, but gradually, system by system. If we do this, there's no going back, Miller warned. If the Council discovers we have Void-derived technology, they'll what? Reed asked. Help us more. They already treat us like children playing with dangerous toys. Before Miller could respond, the ship's alert sounded. His comm beeped, and Officer Gray's voice came through. Commander Miller to the bridge. We're receiving a distress signal from nearby space. It appears to be from a human vessel. Miller exchanged looks with Reed and Wilson. Continue your work, quietly, he ordered. I want to know everything these systems can do. As he hurried to the bridge, Miller couldn't shake the feeling that their discovery was about to become essential for survival, and much sooner than any of them had expected. Commander Miller reached the bridge as Lieutenant Reed rushed in behind him. The main screen showed static with brief flashes of a distressed human face. Report, Miller ordered, taking his command chair. Distress signal detected 14 minutes ago, sir, the communications officer said. It's from the Green Valley, a civilian research vessel. They're requesting immediate assistance. Miller turned to Officer Gray, who stood watching with all 4 arms clasped behind its back. What do we know about this sector? It is sparsely populated, Gray replied. There is a small human research colony on Darus IV, approximately 3 hours from our position at maximum speed. That's where the signal is coming from, Reed confirmed, checking his console. Miller made a quick decision. Helm, set course for Darus IV, maximum speed. Communications, inform Earth Command of our detour. As the Resilience engines strained to increase speed, Miller noticed Gray watching him with an unreadable expression. Is there a problem, Officer Gray? No problem, Commander, Gray said smoothly. I am merely surprised. This vessel is not equipped for rescue operations. Protocol suggests contacting the nearest Council patrol. The nearest Council patrol is 2 days away, Reed pointed out. These are our people. Gray inclined its head slightly. Of course, I merely mentioned protocol. The journey to Darus IV was tense. The distress signal grew clearer as they approached. Under attack. Unknown vessels. Please help. Then, 2 hours in, it stopped completely. Could be a transmitter failure, Reed suggested, but his expression was grim. When they arrived, Miller understood why. Darus IV, a small rocky planet with a thin atmosphere, appeared peaceful from orbit, except for the massive energy readings from its single settlement. Magnify, Miller ordered. The screen showed a horrifying scene. The human research colony was under bombardment. Buildings were in flames, and the research center's protective dome was cracked. 3 sleek vessels hovered above, raining down energy blasts on the remaining structures. "Those are council ships," Reed said, his voice tight with disbelief. "Specifically, Telleran attack cruisers." Miller turned to Gray, whose blue skin had paled slightly. "Explain this, officer." "I cannot," Gray said. "There must be some misunderstanding. The Council protects its members. Open a channel to those ships," Miller ordered the communications officer. After a moment of static, a Telleran commander appeared on screen. Miller recognized him from the reception on Teller Prime. "Commander Miller," the Telleran said, his tone casual. "This is an unexpected meeting." "What are you doing?" Miller demanded. "You're attacking a civilian research colony." The Telleran made a dismissive gesture with his wing-like arm. "We are conducting a necessary security operation. This colony was engaged in prohibited research." "What research could justify this?" Miller gestured to the devastation below. "That is council business," the Telleran replied coldly. "Your presence here is not required or welcome. Leave immediately." Miller stood, anger rising in his chest. "Those are Earth citizens down there. If they'd violated some regulation, there are proper channels." "This is your only warning, Commander," the Telleran interrupted. "Your obsolete vessel is no match for our cruisers. Leave, or be destroyed along with the colony." The screen went dark. "They've locked weapons on us, sir," Reed reported, his voice steady despite the tension. Miller looked around at his crew, their faces showing mixtures of fear and determination. Then he glanced at Gray, who stood frozen, all 4 hands gripping a console. "You knew," Miller said quietly. "You knew this would happen." Gray's alien features couldn't form a human expression of guilt, but its voice modulator conveyed distress. "I did not know the specifics. I was told certain human colonies were engaging in dangerous research related to void technology. Research that could draw the Void Armada back to this sector. And this justifies massacre," Reed demanded. "Sir," the censor officer interrupted. "I'm picking up strange readings from the colony. There's some kind of transmission being sent from the main research building. It's not like anything I've seen before." Miller made his decision. "Red alert. Battle stations. Helm, take us between those cruisers and the colony." As the Resilient moved into position, Miller opened a shipwide channel. "This is the commander. We are about to engage 3 Telleran attack cruisers to defend Earth citizens. We are outgunned and outmatched, but we will not abandon our people. All hands, prepare for combat." He turned to Reed. "Get to the hidden compartments. Tell Wilson to activate whatever systems she can. We need every advantage." Reed nodded and ran from the bridge. The Resilient positioned itself above the colony, its outdated shields barely deflecting the initial warning shots from the Telleran vessels. "They're hailing us again," the communications officer reported. The Telleran commander appeared, his feathered crest raised in anger. "This is foolish, human. Your ship will be destroyed in seconds." "Maybe," Miller agreed, "but we'll make those seconds count." The first real attack came moments later, a barrage of energy weapons that made the Resilient shudder. Alarms blared as systems overloaded. "Shields at 40%, the tactical officer shouted. "We can't take another hit like that." Miller gripped his chair as the ship rocked again. "Return fire, all weapons." The Resilient's railguns and missile tubes responded, but the projectiles were easily deflected by the Telleran's advanced shields. "No effect, sir." Miller was about to order evasive maneuvers when the ship suddenly stabilized. The lights flickered, and for a moment, all systems paused. "What's happening?" Miller demanded. The answer came as Wilson's voice over the comm. "Commander, we've activated the first system, a secondary shield array. It's drawing power from the Phantom reactor core." On the tactical display, Miller watched in amazement as a new shield signature formed around the ship. different from the standard bubble configuration. This one shifted and flowed like liquid. The next Telleran blast hit this new shield and dispersed, its energy spreading harmlessly across the surface. "Get me firing solutions," Miller ordered, a new confidence in his voice. Before Tactical could respond, Reed returned to the bridge, breathless. "Sir," Wilson's accessed more systems. "The phase shift technology from the logs. It works. We can modify our railgun projectiles to partially shift out of normal space. They'll bypass standard shields." Miller nodded. "Do it." While the Tellerans prepared another coordinated attack, the Resilience weapons were quickly modified. Wilson worked frantically in the hidden compartment, routing power from the mysterious core to the newly awakened systems. "Phantom systems online," she reported. "Railguns reconfigured. We can fire when ready." The 3 Telleran cruisers formed a triangle pattern, clearly preparing to finish the annoying human vessel with a single massive strike. "Target the lead vessel," Miller ordered. "Fire when ready." The Resilience main railgun fired, a single, seemingly ordinary projectile that streaked toward the lead Telleran ship. The Telleran commander didn't even bother to adjust his shields, obviously confident in their ability to deflect primitive human weapons. The projectile passed through the shield as if it wasn't there, then solidified inside the ship's hull. The explosion tore a massive hole in the Telleran cruiser, venting atmosphere and debris into space. On the bridge, a cheer went up from the human crew. Even Officer Gray looked stunned. "Target the second vessel," Miller ordered, his voice calm despite the victory, "and prepare to receive survivors from the colony. This fight isn't over yet." As the Resilient turned to face the remaining Telleran ships, Miller couldn't help but think of Admiral Jensen's final log. The old admiral had been right to hide this technology, not from the Void, but from the very allies who claimed to have saved humanity. The remaining Telleran cruisers pulled back to a safer distance after witnessing what happened to their lead ship. This gave the Resilient precious time to launch rescue shuttles to the surface of Darus IV. On the bridge, Miller studied the tactical display. "They're regrouping. They'll be back with a new strategy once they figure out what we did." Reed nodded. "And they'll call for reinforcements. We need to get those colonists aboard and get out of here fast." Officer Gray stood off to the side, its 4 arms moving in agitated patterns. "Commander, I must protest this action. You have fired upon Council vessels. The consequences will be severe." Miller turned to face the alien liaison. "The consequences were already severe when they attacked our colony. I need to know where you stand, Officer Gray. Are you with us or with them?" Gray's large eyes blinked rapidly. I do not understand what is happening. The Council does not attack its members without cause." "Then help us find that cause," Miller said. "What were these colonists researching that was worth killing them for?" Before Gray could answer, Wilson's voice came over the comm. "Commander, I've accessed more of the hidden systems. And, sir, you need to see this. I'm in Phantom Compartment 6. Miller left Reed in command and headed to the compartment, bringing Gray along. He wasn't ready to leave the alien unsupervised, not until he understood its true loyalties. The compartment Wilson had found was different from the others. Larger, filled with what looked like medical equipment surrounding the central platform. "What is this?" Miller asked, stepping inside. Wilson looked up from a console, her face pale. "It's called a neural interface chamber. According to the logs, it's designed to link a human pilot directly with the ship's systems." She tapped the console, and a holographic recording appeared. Admiral Jensen's face materialized before them. "If you're viewing this message, you've discovered the Phantom systems and activated at least part of the neural interface. The Resilient is more than just a ship. It's an answer to a question no one was asking. What if we could combine human intuition with Void technology? What if we could create a weapon that could fight on their level?" The image shifted to show schematics of the Resilient, highlighting structures hidden throughout the ship. The Void don't pilot their ships. They merge with them. Their vessels are partly organic, forming a symbiotic relationship with their crews. We couldn't replicate that exactly, but we created something similar. The Resilient has a distributed neural network running through its hull. When fully activated, it can link with a human pilot, enhancing reaction times and allowing for control of systems that would normally require hundreds of crew members. Jensen's face returned, his expression grim. I'm leaving this recording because I know what's coming. Not just the Void. They're just one threat. There are factions within the Council who fear human potential. They've been watching us for decades, and some believe we should be controlled or eliminated before we advance further. If you've activated this system, it means you've discovered their betrayal. The neural interface is the key to unlocking the Resilient's full capabilities. The recording ended, leaving Miller staring at the empty platform. Jensen knew, he said quietly. He knew the Council couldn't be trusted. Gray had been watching silently, its alien features impossible to read. This is illegal technology, it finally said. Merging biological entities with ships. It's forbidden by Council law for good reason. Such systems are unstable, unpredictable. Is that why the Tellarans are attacking the colony? Miller asked. Because they found similar technology. Gray hesitated. I do not know, but if they were researching neural interfaces. Sir, Wilson interrupted, there's more. The logs show the Resilient has weapons systems we haven't even imagined, but they can only be controlled through the neural interface. Miller looked at the platform, understanding what she was suggesting. You want me to link with the ship? Wilson nodded. The logs say it has to be the commanding officer. The ship is programmed to bond with the highest authority on board. And what happens to me if I do this? The logs aren't clear. Jensen's team never completed a full test. There were concerns about the mental strain on the pilot. Miller's comm beeped. Reed's voice came through, urgent. Commander, the Tellarans are moving back into attack position. They'd been joined by another vessel, bigger than the cruisers. And sir, we're picking up transmissions. They're calling in a full Council fleet. They're saying we've gone rogue. Miller looked from the neural platform to Gray. If I do this, what will the Council do? Gray's voice was solemn. They will declare you enemies. They will hunt you down. Neural interfaces are considered an abomination, a step toward becoming like the Void. And if we don't do it, if we surrender, those who attacked humans will claim they were justified. Your crew may be spared, but you and anyone with knowledge of this technology will be removed. Miller made his decision. Reed, hold them off as long as you can. Wilson, prepare the interface. Gray, you should leave. What happens next will make you a traitor to the Council if you're involved. To Miller's surprise, Gray stayed. I have seen enough to know something is wrong within the Council. I will stay, Commander. I will witness. Wilson worked quickly, activating the platform and connecting various sensors. It's ready, sir. The process is supposed to be gradual, but we don't have time. I'll have to initiate a full link immediately. The ship shuddered as the first Tellaran attacks hit their shields. Do it, Miller ordered, stepping onto the platform. Wilson activated the sequence. Metal restraints emerged, securing Miller in place. Needle-like probes extended from the ceiling, connecting to his temples and spine. Pain shot through Miller's body, and he cried out. Through the agony, he heard Wilson's voice, distant and echoing. Neural pathways connecting. Ship systems recognizing Commander. Synchronization beginning. The pain suddenly transformed into something else. Awareness. Miller could feel the Resilient around him, not as a vessel he commanded, but as an extension of his own body. He could sense the shield impacts like blows to his skin. The engines were his muscles, the sensors his eyes. I can see, he gasped. I can see everything. Through the ship's sensors, Miller perceived the space battle with perfect clarity. The Tellaran vessels moved in predictable patterns, their intentions clear to him now. And beyond them, he detected the approaching Council fleet. Dozens of ships, all converging on the Resilient's position. But most importantly, he sensed systems awakening throughout the Resilient. Weapons beyond anything humanity had developed. Defenses that could withstand the most powerful attacks. Engines capable of speeds that would outrun any pursuer. "Get the survivors aboard," Miller ordered, his voice coming through every speaker on the ship simultaneously. "We need to leave. Now." As the last shuttle docked, Miller felt the Resilient respond to his thoughts. The engines reconfigured themselves, drawing power from the Phantom core. The weapons systems came online, humming with potential energy. "Sir," Reed's voice came through, filled with awe. "What are you doing to the ship?" "Not doing," Miller replied, as the Resilient's hull began to transform, plates shifting to reveal hidden weapon ports. "Becoming." The Resilient was awakening, and through his neural connection, Miller understood its true purpose. This wasn't just a warship. It was humanity's answer to both the Void and the Council. A perfect fusion of human determination and advanced technology. "They laughed at this ship," Miller said, as the Resilient's systems reached full power. "Let's show them why that was a mistake." The Telleran commander watched the outdated human vessel with a mixture of confusion and growing concern. Something was happening to the Resilient. Its hull was shifting, changing before his eyes. Energy readings were spiking beyond anything his sensors could properly measure. "What are they doing?" he demanded of his science officer. "Unknown, Commander. The human vessel is exhibiting characteristics that do not match its known specifications." On the massive Council flagship that had just arrived, Admiral Kren of the Telleran High Command observed the same phenomenon with narrowed eyes. He opened a communication channel to the Resilient. "Commander Miller," Kren's voice was cold and authoritative. "Your actions constitute an act of war against the Galactic Council. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded." Inside the neural interface chamber, Miller smiled. He could hear the Admiral's voice directly in his mind, transmitted through the ship's communication systems. He could also sense the fear behind the commanding tone. "This is Commander Jack Miller of the U.S. Resilient," he responded, his thoughts converted to words by the ship. "You attacked a peaceful human colony without provocation. You murdered civilians, and now you threaten us." Through the ship's enhanced sensors, Miller could see the Council fleet assembling. 15 vessels of various sizes, all armed for battle. Under normal circumstances, even one of those ships could destroy the Resilient. But circumstances were no longer normal. "Reed," Miller communicated directly to the bridge. "Evacuate all non-essential personnel to the central compartments. Wilson, route all power to the Phantom core." "The Council ships are taking up attack positions," Reed reported. "They're targeting our engines." Miller didn't need the report. He could feel the targeting locks like pinpricks on his skin. But more importantly, he could see gaps in their formation, weaknesses in their approach. "Officer Gray," Miller said to the alien who stood watching him with fascination, "the Council will label you a traitor for what you are about to witness. Last chance to leave." Gray stood straighter, all 4 arms at attention. "I have served the Council faithfully for many cycles, Commander. But what they did today, that is not the Council I swore to serve. I stay." Miller nodded. Then, with a thought, he activated the Resilient's true weapons. The ship's outer hull opened at multiple points, revealing ports that hadn't existed in the original design. From these emerged sleek, angular weapon systems that hummed with energy. The entire vessel seemed to vibrate as power flowed through newly awakened conduits. Admiral Kren's voice came through again, with a hint of uncertainty. "What is this? That technology is prohibited." "You should have thought of that before attacking humans," Miller replied. The Council ships fired first, a coordinated barrage of energy weapons designed to cripple the Resilient's engines. But Miller had already anticipated the attack. With a thought, he shifted the Resilient's phase shields, creating a rippling barrier that absorbed the incoming fire. Then he counterattacked. From the new weapon ports erupted beams of shimmering energy, each targeting a different Council vessel. The beams didn't explode against shields as conventional weapons would. Instead, they passed through them, wrapping around the enemy ships like liquid light. "What's happening?" Reed asked, watching the tactical display in amazement. "Phase disruption," Miller explained, the knowledge flowing directly from the ship's database to his mind. "The weapons don't attack the ships. They attack the space around them, creating localized distortions." The effect was immediate and devastating. 3 smaller Council vessels found themselves unable to maintain position as space itself seemed to warp around them. Their engines fought against the distortion, but they were slowly pulled together until their shields collided in a cascade of energy. "All surviving colonists are aboard," reported the shuttle bay officer. 37 rescued, 12 of them injured. Miller processed this information even as he guided the Resilient through a complex, evasive pattern that no human pilot could have managed. The ship responded instantly to his thoughts, moving with a grace that belied its bulky appearance. The Council flagship, a massive Telleran dreadnought, broke from formation and moved to engage the Resilient directly. Its forward batteries launched a continuous stream of energy pulses, testing the phase shields. Miller felt each impact. The shields would hold, but not indefinitely. He needed to end this quickly. "Activating main phase cannon," he announced. The Resilient's bow opened, revealing a massive weapon that had been hidden within the ship's superstructure. It resembled no human or Council weapon. Its design was wholly alien, with organic curves and pulsing energy conduits. "That's Void technology," Gray exclaimed, recognizing the design. "How is this possible?" "Not Void," Miller corrected, knowledge flowing into his mind from the ship's database. "Something else." Jensen and his team discovered that the Void had themselves adapted this technology from an even older source. The weapon charge, drawing enormous power from the Phantom core. The lights throughout the ship dimmed as energy was redirected. Admiral Kren recognized the threat. His flagship launched a swarm of interceptors to destroy the Resilient before it could fire. Too late. The phase cannon activated, sending a sphere of writhing energy toward the flagship. It wasn't a beam or a projectile, but a bubble of altered spacetime that expanded as it traveled. When it reached the flagship, it engulfed the massive vessel entirely. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the flagship began to dissolve, not exploding or breaking apart, but simply coming undone as the fundamental forces holding it together were temporarily suspended. The remaining Council ships halted their attack, shocked by the display of power from the supposedly primitive human vessel. Miller opened a broadcast channel to all Council ships. "This is Commander Miller. The flagship crew is alive. The phase field disrupts technology, not organic matter. They're floating in their survival suits. Pick them up and leave this system immediately." Through the neural interface, Miller accessed the data stolen from the Telleran systems during the attack. What he found confirmed his worst fears. The colony on Darus IV wasn't the first human settlement to be secretly removed by Council forces. Over the past 3 years, 7 other remote colonies had disappeared, all officially attributed to accidents or Void remnant attacks. "We need to warn Earth," Reed said. "If the Council is systematically targeting our colonies, they're trying to contain us." Miller realized, the pieces falling into place. They fear what we might become. Officer Gray approached the neural interface platform where Miller was still connected. "The Council leadership must not know about this. This operation has been too secretive, too precise." "There's a faction within the Council," Miller agreed, "working to keep humanity dependent and weak." He made a decision, sending his thoughts through the ship's communications array. The Resilient began broadcasting on all frequencies, transmitting the evidence they'd gathered. The unprovoked attack, the data about previous colony destructions, and records of the secret Council orders authorizing them. Every human colony, every Earth ship, and every Council world will receive this data, Miller announced. The truth can't be hidden anymore. The remaining Council ships began to retreat, clearly unwilling to challenge the Resilient further. "We won't be welcome in Council space after this," Reed pointed out. "No," Miller agreed, "but we've changed the game. They thought they were dealing with an obsolete warship and a primitive species. Now they know better." As the neural interface began to disengage, Miller felt the ship's systems slowly separating from his consciousness. The experience of being merged with the Resilient had changed him forever. He now understood why the technology had been hidden away, not just because the Council feared it, but because it represented a transformation, a step beyond what humans had considered possible. "Set course for Earth," Miller ordered as he stepped away from the platform on unsteady legs. "We need to prepare them. This isn't over. It's just beginning." The Resilient turned away from the battlefield, its hull gradually shifting back to its original configuration, once again looking like a simple, outdated warship. But everyone who had witnessed its transformation knew the truth. They had laughed at this ancient warship until it unveiled what humanity was truly capable of.